Hi everyone, I would like to share my thoughts that I have been thinking for years about the seven laws of Noah and the seven commandments for the Gentiles and the seven Beatitudes. For those who don't know what is the seven laws of Noah, well, according to Judaism, there are two kinds of people. The first, of course, is the people of Israel, and the second is the rest of the world or the Gentiles. For the people of Israel, they have to observe 613 commandments, while for the Gentiles, they only require to observe the seven laws of Noah. Actually, it's more like seven category of laws, not seven commandments. The first is do not practice idolatry. The second is do not blaspheme God. The third is do not murder. The fourth is do not commit sexual immorality. The fifth is do not steal. The sixth is to set up courts of law and justice. And the last is do not eat a limb of a living animal. After thinking, after years of thinking, I see the connection between the seven laws of Noah and the seven commandments in the Bible. Here's the comparison. Idolatry relates to the first commandment, that is, you shall have no gods other than the Lord your God. The second is related to the second commandment, do not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. The third is the same, you shall not murder. The fourth is you shall not commit adultery, and then you shall not steal. Here's exactly the same, okay? From 1 to 5, it's exactly the same. The sixth is almost similar. And the only difference is the last commandment. While the seven laws of Noah says do not eat a limb of animal that is still alive, I think the better option is the last commandment in the Ten Commandments. That is, you shall not covet your neighbor, wife, or your neighbor's house. It's the last commandment is very different, totally different. But I think, in my humble opinion, the seven commandments that taken from Exodus 20 and Deuteronomy 5 is better than the seven laws of Noah. What is the difference? The difference is the seven laws of Noah is not biblical, while the seven commandments are biblical. If you read the Midrash Bereshit Rabbah or Genesis Rabbah, there are a verse in Genesis which the basis for the six laws that given to Adam. Okay, the verse is Genesis chapter 2 verse 16 and 17. I will read it to you. And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, you may surely eat of every tree of the garden, etc. And the Lord refers to blasphemies. The Lord refers to no blasphemies. God or Elohim refers to set up courts of law and justice. Commanded alludes to adultery. The man refers to murder. Oh, I'm sorry. Commanded refers to uh, idolatry. Commanded refers to idolatry. The man refers to murder. Saying refers to adultery. And the last is do not steal. You may surely eat, etc. refers to do not steal. However, uh, in my opinion, the commandment of you shall not covet your neighbor's wife or your neighbor's house is already included in this verse. The proof is in Genesis chapter 3, verse 6. Uh, about the tree of knowledge. The tree of knowledge was, many translations say it, the tree of knowledge was pleasant and desirable. However, the Jubilee Bible, I will read the translation of the Jubilee Bible. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was desirable to the eyes, and a tree of covetousness, the tree of covetousness to understand. So you see that the tree of knowledge is called a tree of covetousness. It's the same root word with you shall not covet. They have the same root word, covet. So I believe the seventh commandment is you shall not covet your neighbor's wife and your neighbor's house, instead of do not eat a limb of living animal. Why? Because it's biblical. A little about me. I'm a Muslim from Indonesia, but I consider myself as a Noahide. Of course, I never declare my faith in front of three rabbis, but I do read the books about Noahides. For example, I read uh, The Path of the Righteous Gentile by Rabbi Chaim Clorovin. Then The World of Ger by the same author, Rabbi Chaim Clorovin, and also a book called The Greatest Story Never Told, Torah Not for Jews Only by Rabbi Ariel Bar Zadok. I think these three books are great. I read the Bible and the Quran for over 20 years, and I believe in both Bible and the Quran. I believe that Jesus is the servant of God, his messenger, his prophet, and his word which he bestowed on Mary. However, Jesus is not God nor Son of God. So I have made several lists about seven things, namely 7 laws of Noah, 7 commandments in the Bible, 7 Beatitudes, 7 deadly sins, 7 sins in Matthew chapter 15, and so on. So why 7? First, God created the heaven and the earth in 7 days. Secondly, there are 7 heavens, and there are 7 laws of Noah. There are 7 deadly sins and 7 virtues. There are 7 repeated verses in the Surah Al-Hijr, verse 87. And then there are 7 verses of Surah Al-Fatihah, or the first chapter in the Quran. There are 7 Beatitudes for the Gentiles. And there are 7 commandments for the Gentiles. Now, let's take a look of this list. 7 laws of Noah, 7 commandments in the Bible, and 7 sins in Matthew chapter 15, verse 19. Every list has connection, okay? But I remove the last list in the 7 laws of Noah with this commandment: you shall not covet your neighbor's wife or your neighbor's house. Why? Because it's more biblical. 7 commandments is more biblical, while the do not eat a limb of an animal that's still alive, you cannot find it in the Bible. No, you cannot find this commandment in the Bible. And also, you will see the connection between each of these 7 commandments with 7 sins that is stated in Matthew chapter 15, verse 19. That is, fornications refer to idolatry, blasphemies refers to blasphemy, murders, adulteries, theft, false witness, and evil thoughts. There are exactly 7 sins in Matthew 15, verse 19. So, why fornication refers to idolatry? You can read it in 2 Chronicles chapter 21, verse 11, or you can read it in Ezekiel chapter 16, verse 15, 26, and 29. It is stated that fornication means idolatry. The rest of the commandments is the same, exactly the same. Okay. Now, question: why are there only 7 commandments in my list, while we all know that there are 10 commandments in Exodus 20 and Deuteronomy 5? Why? Because if you read Exodus 20 and Deuteronomy 5 carefully, actually there are only 9 commandments. Okay, 9 commandments. Not 10. The Samaritans knew about it, so they add the 10th commandment, or the extra commandment that is not included in our Bible. The 10th commandment in Samaritan Pentateuch is something like making an altar in the Mount Gerizim. And the Samaritans is not the only people who add the extra commandment. An old manuscript called Shapira manuscript that found by Moses Shapira in 19th century, there is also an extra commandment, or the 10th commandment, in the Shapira manuscript that says, you shall not hate your brother in your heart, or similar to Leviticus chapter 19 verse 17. Since we use the Common Bible, so actually there are only 9 commandments. I just removed 2 commandments from the list. For the order of the commandments, I agree with the Catholics from the first commandment to the 9th commandment. However, I disagree with the Catholics when they break the 9th commandment, you shall not covet, into 2 separate commandments. So the Catholics breaks these commandments into two different commandments. That is, you shall not covet your neighbor's house is different commandment from you shall not covet your neighbor's wife. But in my opinion, it's the same commandment, not two separated commandments. So there are only 9 commandments. Okay. So question, why did I remove the commandment of observe the Sabbath day and honor your father and mother from my list of commandments? Because I believe that these two commandments, that is, observe the Sabbath day and honor your father and mother, are given for the Jews only, not for the Gentiles. It is obvious that observes the Sabbath day is only for the Jews. But how about the commandment of to honor your father and mother? Well, if you read those two commandments in Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 12 to 16, you will find a phrase like, as the Lord your God has commanded you. This phrase, as the Lord your God has commanded you, only appear in these two commandments. This phrase is absent in the other commandments. So I assume that this phrase means that these two commandments are special for the people of Israel only. On the other hand, the Gentiles are not obliged to observe the Sabbath. But about the commandment to honor your father and mother, I believe it's already included in the second law. That is, do not blaspheme God. So why do the people of Israel have the special commandment to honor their father and their mother? In my humble opinion, my guess is because their ancestors can be traced back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Their true fathers are Abraham, and their mother is Sarah. So I think my guess is because they can trace back their parents to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, and so on. So they have the special commandment to honor their parents that can be traced back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and Sarah and Rebecca. But that's just my 2 cents. Why did I change the law of do not eat a limb of an animal that is still alive with the commandment of you shall not covet your neighbor's house or your neighbor's wife? In my opinion, the commandment of you shall not covet is much more makes sense because it's biblical, while you shall not eat a limb of animal that is still alive is not biblical. And also, the commandment of you shall not covet is on the list of commandments in the epistle of Paul to the Romans, chapter 13, verse 9. Moreover, you shall not covet is closely related to the envy. Envy is one of the deadly sins. envy is one of the seven deadly sins. So I guess it makes sense if it is included in the list of the seven commandments. Don't get me wrong, I still believe that the law not to eat a limb of a living animal is still a valid commandment, but it's not a separated category, but I think it's already included in the commandments of do not murder. The same also applies to the commandment of honor your father and mother, which already included in the commandments of do not blaspheme God. Okay, we have compared the seven commandments and Matthew chapter 15 verse 19, and I also have the list of the seven deadly sins. In some in some uh, in some number you can see the connection easily. For example, lust is connected to adulteries, and envy is connected to covet, which connect to evil thoughts. Greed has relation to theft. But how about pride? What is the relation between pride and murder? To make the list even more problematic, I also have the list of the seven Beatitudes in Matthew. Okay, blessed are the poor, blessed are those who mourn, blessed are those who are humble, etc. So what is the connection between gluttony and the poor, and fornication and idolatry? What is the connection between wrath and blessed are those who mourn with blasphemies? I will explain it in the next slide, okay? What is the relation between no idolatry or you shall not have any other gods before the Lord your God with blessed are the poor and gluttony? The opposite of the poor is the rich, and the rich is someone who has abundant money and wealth. Sometimes they are called the lovers of money. Luke chapter 16 verse 14. The deceitfulness of riches and pleasures of life can prevent someone to be fruitful. Luke chapter 8 verse 14. In the double tradition, or in the Gospel of Matthew and the Gospel of Luke, it is stated that you cannot serve God and mammon. You cannot serve God and mammon. Mammon is an Aramaic word which means money or wealth. You can compare it to the Quran, Surah An-Nahl, or the Surah number 16 in the Quran, verse 51. Do not worship two gods. Do not worship two gods. You cannot serve God and mammon. And the opposite of mammon, or the opposite of money or wealth, is being poor. In the parable of the rich and Lazarus in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 16, verse 19, it is stated that the rich man feasted sumptuously every day, or the rich man ate the best food every day, or the rich man ate big meals every day. I believe that what the rich man did was an act of gluttony. So the rich man, the opposite of the rich man is Lazarus. The opposite of the rich man is the poor man. The opposite of gluttony is Lazarus, which is the poor. What is the relation between no blasphemy or you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain with those who mourn? Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. My main reason is the story of Job, or Eov, or we Muslim call him Ayub. In the book of Job or in the book of Eov, Job mourned and grieved for 7 days and 7 nights. However, no matter how miserable his life was, Job was reluctant to curse God. That is, Job still holds the commandment of you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. When your life is full of misery, it's easy for you to be angry or full of wrath. It's easy to be ungrateful and commit blasphemy when your life was full of misery. For example, I hate humans. It's against the Bible. Why? Because you shall love your neighbor, not hate your neighbor. Animals, many things that animals are much better than humans. Also, is not correct because according to the Bible, humans are the pinnacle of God's creation. Humans are the pinnacle of God's creation. However, some humans are worse than some animals. It's correct. If you say something like animals are much better than humans, it's not correct. But if you say some humans are worse than some animals, it's correct. Or in the Quran it is stated, Ula'ika kal an'ami bal hum adall. They are like cattle, but worse. Life is not fair. Of course, it's not correct because life is fair, God is fair. God is not fair. This is blasphemy because it is stated in the Psalm that God loves righteousness and justice, and righteousness and justice are the foundation of his throne. The next question, how come blessed are those who are humble is related to the commandments of do not murder and the sin of pride? Okay, if you read Matthew chapter 5 by New King James Version or NKJV, it is stated that murder begins in the heart. And the biggest sin in the heart that I can think of is pride. It is stated in the Hadith, Muslim's tradition, that none shall enter paradise those who has in his heart pride, even if it's only the weight of a mustard seed. Sahih Muslim, narrated by Ibn Mas'ud. Cain, the son of Adam, Cain, the first murderer, killed Abel because Cain's pride and ego was hurt. Since Cain is the firstborn son of Adam, he inherited the job of Adam, that is a farmer, while Abel was a shepherd. So Cain was a farmer, job Abel is a shepherd. They have different jobs. Cain thought that he was better than Abel, since Cain was the firstborn son. And Cain thought that he deserved better than Abel. But that is not the case. God accepted Abel's offering but rejected Cain's offering. So then Cain killed Abel. Pride is the prime motive of Cain in murdering Abel. It all started with pride. Where is your brother? I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper? That's not how you respond to your creator. Am I my brother's keeper shows the arrogance of Cain. And the opposite of pride or arrogant is, of course, humble. So it's all connected. The next, what is the relation between to set up courts of law or justice and do not bear false witness, and blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness and justice, and sloth? Well, they are all connected. To set up courts of justice, you need a group of people full of integrity, and you need honest witnesses, where they should not bear false witness. Justice, and justice alone you shall pursue. Justice, and justice alone you shall pursue. Justice, and only justice you shall pursue. Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 20. In order to pursue justice, one have to be hunger and thirst for righteousness and justice. In other words, one have to be diligent to pursue justice. And the opposite of diligent is sloth. What is the relation between the commandment of you shall not steal with blessed are the merciful? I was inspired by the Gospel of Luke chapter 6 verse 29 and 30. And from him who takes away your cloak, do not withhold your tunic either. Give to everyone who asks of you. And from him who takes away your goods, do not ask them back. And the paragraph is ended with a statement, be merciful. Be merciful even as your Father in heaven is also merciful. Taking someone's belonging, whether it's a cloak, tunic, shirt, etc., is stealing. Stealing is related to greed, and the opposite of stealing is to forgive or being merciful, like Gospel of Luke chapter 6, 29 to 30. The next question, what is the relation between the commandment of you shall not commit adultery with blessed are the pure in heart. The adulterer who commits adultery, even if only with his eyes, he already pollutes his heart with the sin of adultery. You can read it in Matthew chapter 5, verse 27 to 29. Adultery in the heart. So adultery has relation to the heart. If you commit adultery, you pollute your heart. If you want your heart to be pure, you have stay away from adultery. And what is the relation between blessed are the peacemakers with the sin of envy? The examples of envy are described in the Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 105 to 120, especially in the verse 109, 111, and 113. Those who have envy in their heart think that they are the chosen ones. They are the only ones who will enter paradise, while other people outside their circle, they think it's wrong and will enter the hellfire. Of course, this is far from the truth. The opposite of such envy is the peacemakers. Peacemakers think that everyone has the chance to enter the heaven, be it a Jew, Christian, Muslim, or a Noahide, as long as they believe in one God and perform good deeds in their life, as long as they don't worship the false god. And the false gods, such as the sun, the moon, the stars, the planets, the statue of Ganesha, the statue of Kuan Yin, etc. We all indeed are one ummah. Ummah means nations, nation or people. We are one people. We are one community. We are one nation under one God. You can read it in Surah Al-Baqarah verse 62, Surah Al-Ma'idah verse 69, Surah Hud verse 118 and 119, Surah Al-Mu'minun verse 52 and 53, and Surah Ash-Shura verse 13 and 14. So here there are the list: the Beatitudes, Matthew chapter 15 verse 19, and the deadly sins. They are all connected, okay? The poor connected with fornication, connected to gluttony, the mourn connected to blasphemies, connected to wrath, etc. So what's the implication of the Beatitudes? Blessed are the poor means we have to worship God only. Blessed are those who mourn means we shall bless God in every situation. Blessed are those who are humble means that we have to be humble. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness means we have to pursue justice diligently. We have to study the Bible and the Quran. We have to read the Bible and the Quran diligently. Blessed are the merciful means to forgive others. Blessed are the pure in heart means to stay true with your heart and to stay away with adultery. Blessed are the peacemakers means to be moderate or in the middle course. Or ummatan wasatan. Ummatan wasatan means in the middle, moderate. Okay. The last question. We all know that there are 8 Beatitudes in Matthew chapter 5, verse 3 to 12. Why did I remove the last Beatitude from the list? If you read Matthew chapter 5, you can see the difference in pronoun between Matthew 5, verse 3 to 10 with Matthew 5, verse 11 and 12, where in Matthew 5, 3 to 10, Jesus used they or them as pronoun, but he used you in chapter 5, verse 11 and 12. I assume that they means the Gentiles, while you means the people of Israel. Whenever Jesus says you in the gospel, it means the people of Israel. For example, you are the light of the world. You are the light of the world. It means the people of Israel, not the Gentiles. Okay? And whenever Jesus says they, it means the Gentiles and the Jews alike. To you, to the people of Israel, it has been given to know the secrets of the kingdom of God. But for others, for the Gentiles, they are in parables. So the parables are intended for the Gentiles and the Jews alike. And so the Beatitudes. The Beatitudes is also intended to the Gentiles and the Jews alike. However, if you read Matthew 5 verse 10 and Matthew 5 verse 11, these are basically the same beatitude. Blessed are those who are persecuted. It's the same. Verses 10 and 11. Blessed are those who are persecuted. And I believe that this beatitude applies perfectly well for the Jews, but not for the Gentiles. Why? Because the Jews had been persecuted for centuries or even for thousands of years. So the conclusions, the 7 commandments in the Bible have relation with Matthew chapter 15 verse 19 and the 7 Beatitudes in the Gospel of Matthew. Thank you. Please visit my personal blog on muktazillah blogspot.com or ofibosblogspot.com. I hope this presentation is useful, and if you have any question or comment, please reply a message or write whatever you want to write. Thank you and bye bye.